Great rates, great service. Have it all with Homestar.
Thank you very much for watching. 1300 30 34 35 is our telephone number. Annelise Nielsen in a couple of minutes from the United States. In the meantime, plenty to fire up about with Senator from New South Wales, Liberal Hollie Hughes, who is there for us in Canberra ahead of the budget. And she's running to be the Lord Mayor of the City of Sydney. It's why I'm wearing the red, to support your
solidarity
candidacy.
forever, comrade.
Here for you, Linda Scott. Of course, she also represents councils around the country as well. Linda, we'll start with you. Budgets and what your expectation is, your hope, your shopping list, your ambered claim. What do you hope comes out of this thing tomorrow night?
We have no amber claims. We just have investment opportunities for local governments.
Thanks, Palaszczuk.
We have had a good day today. We've welcomed the announcements over the weekend from the Prime Minister with respect to infrastructure. This is good news, and we hope a lot of it will be done in conjunction with local governments. We've also put in budget submissions for more support for roads and cycle path funding through the Roads to Recovery scheme and black spot funding, because we know that when you increase black spot funding, you save lives on roads, and the most difficult and dangerous roads right now in Australia are our regional roads. We've also put in a request for funding for a fund to help local governments act to manage climate change and also build their disaster recovery and resilience abilities. We know as a result of this year alone, recovery from COVID and over the summer, floods, fires, and just off the back of a drought, councils are the front line when it comes to dealing with these issues in their local areas. So some hope for some funding in the federal budget for some of those activities, and all of this will build jobs in every corner of Australia. So that's what we're hoping for, Paulie.
Well, Hollie, I thought I'd read a lot about millions of dollars for roads. Many of the things that have just been mentioned, I've heard a few ticks before the Treasurer's even stood up in the Parliament tomorrow night.
Yeah, and look, $10 billion infrastructure spend, which is mainly focused on road projects and into those rural and regional areas, securing the safety of people in those rural seats and regional areas to make sure that they can travel safely is important. But it's not only the expenditure that's going to create jobs, it's securing Australia's future as we go forward. So we are seeing a significant investment in infrastructure. And of course, we are going to see an agency that is designated towards disaster recovery, which, it will assist local councils, will assist local government and communities on the ground when they are faced with things, whether they're storms or floods or fires, to ensure that all of our communities are best prepared to deal with any of those issues as they come forward.
Now, can you know what your expectations are out of the budget? I mean, also, what's always fascinating here, Senator, is the expectations. Over 20 years, I don't know whether it's just my 20 years of paying attention to it or whether this actually was a switch that happened when we were absolutely awash with money 20 years ago, 25 years ago. But this has gone from this sort of national economic document into literally what feels like, 16 million people, sorry kids, I won't count you, leaning forward in the telly saying, what's in it for me? And the media goes into winners and losers and all of that thing. The truth is, it's not a document that's going to result in X amount of dollars being sent to millions of Australians directly on top of the monies that have already been spent in the past. And we talked about this a bit last week when what inevitably will happen is somebody comes out and says, oh, there's not enough new payments for this, that and the other, as if there's no payments for anyone. As I showed earlier in the program, $200 billion. The single biggest thing they will spend any money on tomorrow night is going to be Centrelink, all right? And all of the permutations of monies that people get through Centrelink. So inevitably, Labor, their job is to turn around and say, $10 should have been $11, or why wasn't it $9 for something that currently is $0?
Yeah, but remember, Paul, Labor wanted to keep JobKeeper going. They were absolutely demanding that JobKeeper, kept being paid beyond when we had said it would be phased out. Over 100,000 Australians have got off JobKeeper since that payment stopped. Labor seem to think that it's just this endless bucket of money. And the fact that our social security payments are such a significant part of the budget, we do need to at some point have a look at where those payments are best targeted. It's not just a free-for-all and putting money across the sky. These are very targeted measures that we're looking at. And we did talk about childcare last week. And those payments are about ensuring we boost economic participation, particularly for families in that lower and socioeconomic group. It's not about a handout. It's about boosting economic participation. It's about allowing, whether it's mum or dad that needs the childcare, those parents to return to work, to take extra days on, and so that they're feeling that they can take extra days of work without the entire paycheck going to a childcare fee. So it's about making sure that what we spend on our social security budget is targeted and that it's actually helping lift Australians up. It should never be a payment that people look to be a replacement or a living wage. All of our payments should be focused on how we support people work and contribute to the economy, and for those that are out of work, to support them during a period, and we do that in a multiple of ways, not only through payments but also through training and other opportunities to ensure that they can return to the workforce. We do not have a living wage system.
Yeah, if only our team had spent some time
that
today putting together the number of people in the Labor Party who said JobKeeper should disappear or shouldn't disappear, and if it did disappear, lots of people would lose their job. But today we learnt the number of people on the dole has reduced since JobKeeper disappeared.
The government has turned off the JobKeeper program way too early.
I'm not sure why you'd spend nearly a year, effectively taking them across the desert and then getting this close to the finish line and pushing them over the cliff.
150,000 people losing their jobs in coming months is a pretty scary thing.
Really concerned that their doors will close without JobKeeper.
The rug is about to be pulled from under those businesses.
The fact of the matter is that if JobKeeper does come to an end and there is nothing done here, we're going to see thousands of businesses go bust. We're going to see tens of thousands of Australians lose their job.
That's awkward. Here is the Treasurer explaining. Fewer people are getting the dole now than when JobKeeper disappeared in March.
Well, that 105,000 people have come off income support in the month of April since JobKeeper ended. You may remember our political opponent said that the sky would fall in.
Linda, the term is dig up, but can you from there?
Now, look, I think it's very important that the government has set a plan to try and reduce unemployment. And in fact, that's pretty significant because we have had policies in this country previously that have said, oh, it's okay to have 5% unemployment. What's wrong with that? So it is good that the government is pushing to get more people into work. But let's remember, if you look back across their 7 years, 6 of those budgets have been in deficit. So it's not like we can just keep saying this is COVID and we're experiencing extraordinary circumstances. We do need to see a plan from the Treasurer tomorrow night about budget repair and about this government's view about how they're going to get that budget back into surplus. And Labor has been out there doing what their job is, which is to be a constructive opposition, to offer policy ideas, and lots of those policy ideas that Anthony Albanese has put forward are going to be likely featured in tomorrow's budget. We've already seen some of them announced in the lead up to the budget, particularly on childcare. And it's going to be the case that the government needs to make the argument for what we see going forward and how they're going to get the budget that is now in record deficit back to a balanced budget in future. It's been said, and my constituents tell this to me. I was out on the weekend meeting so many of them in Chippendale, in Redfern, and all these young people who live in the city of Sydney came up to me and said, how is it that I'm going to be working for much of my working life to pay back the debt that we've incurred now? People are worried about it, and they're worried about a government that needs a plan to get the country back on track and to stop shifting the burden of Australia's payments onto younger people who are going to be the ones that are going to have to shoulder this significant debt.
Well, Hollie, what are we going to see tomorrow about getting back towards something like balance? Because the truth is, the Australian people, fairly or unfairly, they don't want to increase the tax and they don't want to cut spending. So is the assumption that magically more money comes in through income and company tax because companies get bigger and more people get employed? Because that seems to be the formula here, but there's going to have to be a lot more people employed, including people who don't even live here yet, to be able to get anywhere near a flat budget.
Yeah, and look, it is about jobs, and I would have to disagree that we're going to be demonstrating any of Anthony Albanese's ideas tomorrow night. I think we saw just his economic credentials when he thought the whole cliff was everyone was going to fall off the cliff after JobKeeper was removed, and we saw that has not happened. In fact, we've seen businesses continue to flourish after the JobKeeper was removed. And in fact, some of them have increased significantly what they've been able to do because people have actually gone back to work. One of the problems that we knew with JobKeeper during the pandemic, but that we recognised was almost having to be a payoff to ensure that more, as many Australians as possible were looked after during the pandemic. But small businesses were finding it incredibly difficult to get staff because the JobKeeper rate was not attractive to then go back into work. So once JobKeeper has been removed, we've actually seen more Australians go back into work. Again, unlike Labor, we don't look to the government to create jobs. We look to business and small business. 80% of Australians are employed in small business, not by the bureaucracy. So we want to make sure that we see the economic growth of this country. And, let's keep in mind, Australia has weathered this economic storm of COVID as well as the health one, if not the best in the world, certainly equal to it. And our economic recovery, I don't think anyone 12 months ago would have thought we would have seen an unemployment rate at the low level that it is now. Certainly not the naysayers and doomsdayers that I see sitting across the chamber from me in the Senate. They thought that the whole sky was going to fall in, that we were going to enter some form of depression. Well, guess what? It didn't. Australian businesses and workers pulled together to ensure that, supported by the Morrison government, their business could continue. They could continue to grow their business and employ more Australians. And that is what will contribute to the economic recovery of our country.
Right, Denise is in Griffin in Queensland. She joins us as our first caller tonight. Denise, good evening. Thank you so much for watching. What do you want to say to the gang tonight?
Oh, look, hi. I want to reflect on something... Flint, is it?
Yeah, Nicole Flint, a bit earlier in the show, talking about more money for women's health.
Yes, well, I want to bring up a point. Paul, back in 2014, I was diagnosed with breast cancer. I actually lost my right side. Now, after that, every year I have to go for a mammogram and an ultrasound. And every year up until this year, so that's 6 years until this year, I have gone for it and not paid for it because I've already had the cancer and it's something that we have to monitor. Mm-hmm. This year, I went to my normal place and I shopped around and I had to pay out of my pocket and I was absolutely livid. And I'm not talking I'm just your average. I don't have any healthcare card. I pay all my taxes. I pay out of fund. And I was out of pocket. I had to pay $365 up front to get my breast, to have my thing done. And this is just, I've never been so angry. And I wrote to my federal politician who is Luke Phillips. Howard, that's it. Yeah. And I did get a response from him, to his credit, but it was all gobbledygook. It's saying that the Medicare thing, that these private practices like QDI and all those ones can now start charging what they want because of this. So I'm interested to know how in hell are they going to help women's health when they've increased it. And the only free screening you can get is from the breast screening, and they don't do ultrasounds. They just do your basic. And you need to have both, Paul. And I hope like hell that they reassess this and put it back the way it was. Why should I have to pay? And I know people might be out there thinking, oh, you're just, whinging about it. But
No.
Paul,
Denise.
mate, 6 years without paying and then getting told that you have to pay this year, it's just devastating because I have other health issues going on.
It's an outrageous and what I feel is a completely unnecessary change. Denise, you've inspired me to go and read more, work out more, pressure more about all of this. Linda, then Hollie, about that situation, because that seems, and I believe Denise, it's outrageous.
Well, Denise, I'm so sorry you've had to experience breast cancer, but thank goodness you're still going and getting your regular mammograms. Good on you, and that's our first fantastic public health message of the night. But it is so devastating to hear that, as you say, for the first time you're having to pay what is hundreds of dollars in a gap fee for that. And the deregulation of our health system, enabling many private providers to charge much higher gaps, or indeed gaps at all, is really crippling. No one in Australia in 2021 should have to make a decision about their health or whether they feed their children or whether they have enough money to pay their rent. Our health system in Australia, we're so proud of it, it's so good, but it is designed not to have situations like this where you have had to pay hundreds and hundreds of dollars out of your own pocket to get a mammogram. And you're absolutely spot on about the ultrasound. When a doctor tells you, especially after you're a survivor of breast cancer, that you need that additional ultrasound to be sure, then I defy anyone who doesn't want to get that for the benefit of their own health. So thanks so much for calling in and raising this issue. I hope the government takes it into account because it just shouldn't be that way. You should not have had to go through that, Denise.
Well, Hollie, how does that happen?
To be honest, Paul, I don't know about that, and I am not sure why it went from being free to not being free, and whether or not, you know, we do talk about choice and control in the health system. Some people have health insurance, some people don't. We do have universal healthcare through the public hospital system, but of course that's run by the states. So we do need to be careful that we're not just throwing, and we just talked about this endless supply of money apparently. There is choice and control. There are people that, you know, choose a private provider over the public health system. There's people that use private health insurance. There's many different ways people access things. And I'm sorry what you went through with your breast cancer, and I'm not quite sure, and I could be wrong on this, but my understanding was that you were tested for 5 years after experiencing cancer and then, declared cancer-free. I don't know whether that has an impact on the timing of it. So I don't know, but I'm happy to find out for you. But I do know that there's multiple access points in the health system. A lot of it is through the public health system that's run by the states. And if you're with Luke Howarth, I think he said that'd be Queensland. So perhaps take that up with the Palaszczuk government, what their access is. But also, I'm not sure whether it is a timing thing that it's provided for a certain period of time post a cancer recovery.
All right. Well, also, a really important thing is, and we're going to hear this a lot tomorrow, where X million dollars, X billion dollars is going to be spent, right? I just want normal people to understand X thousand roads, Y thousand patients, Z, 1,000 people. I just want to hear numbers about that, because it's always a little bewildering, the numbers game that goes on in and around a budget, but we'll follow that up again and deal with that tomorrow in our mega post-budget show. We're going to go live to the Texas border next, through the joys of modern technology. Annelise Nielsen will join us now, and she joins us in a second from beautiful Texas. More in a sec.
This program is brought to you by the Ram 1500 Express Crew Cab with a 5.7 litre V8 Hemi and 4.5 tonne towing. Drive one today.
Tomorrow, amid Canberra chaos and a rocky vaccine rollout, Budget Night will be live on Sky News. Join Kieran Gilbert, Andrew Clennell and Ross Greenwood for expert analysis, plus interviews with the key players. Who will be the winners and losers in post-pandemic Australia?
Our plan will create jobs.
And is the fiscal fight back the beginning of Scott Morrison's re-election campaign? Budget Night, tomorrow.
Come home to comfort, now at Harvey Norman. Bring on winter warmth with Lavenu wool blanket, made using Australian wool, only $229. The Australian-made Sealy Posturepedic Valencia Queen mattress offers premium comfort with intuitive coil support. 4 feels, $1,699 each. Make a statement with the stunning Australian-made Chateau Queen bed. Customise your look by choosing your fabric in store. Buy on 60 months interest-free and receive a bonus gift card up to $500. Now at Harvey Norman.
Go! Runway 25, ready to take off. Wingman 425, clear to take off. Going down your left side.
Feel like you're being watched? Hackers could steal the personal information on your device or see what you send over Wi-Fi. That's why Norton 360 includes a VPN, device security and more. Go to au.norton.com.
Don't let anything stand in your way. Be ready for whatever the season has in store with 20% off new winter arrivals from The Iconic. The Iconic. Live your way.
This is what every small business looks like to us, and we are the business fuel. Fast, flexible business loans from 10 to 250,000 designed to take you to the next level. So when opportunity knocks, seize the moment. Go to businessfuel.com.au. We make money happen. Want $10 to $250,000 to fuel your business ambition fast? Get ready to boost your business. Apply now at Business Fuel, the lending team backing Australian business.
The Ram 1500 Express Crew Cab is big on space, has a powerful V8 Hemi and up to 4.5 tonne towing. That's why our range of pickup trucks eats utes for breakfast.
There are some extra details around the federal budget in tomorrow's newspapers, so make sure you keep watching us for the rest of this program and Gleeso into the next hour as well, because you'll have the first look at what the government is wanting the message to be going into budget day, and then obviously our reactions to all of it. They can't control that. And you'll see it tomorrow night here on Sky News. All day in our coverage, wonderful preview with Peter Credlin at 6 p.m, the main speech at 7:30, Kieran Gilbert at 8 o'clock with his analysis, including an interview with the Treasurer, and at 9 o'clock Canberra time, and around the rest of the country on the East Coast, Paul Murray live with, among others, Andrew Bolt, Chris Kenny, Alan Jones, Rita Panahi, Nicholas Rees. That's just the start. Let's talk to Annelise Nielsen, who right now is at the tippy bottom of the magnificent state of Texas. Don't mess with Texas. She is right there on the right at the southern part of the United States, right at the border of Mexico. And she joins us now. McLean, Texas, is that where you are, mate?
We're in McAllen, Texas, so about 20 minutes south you're going to be crossing into Mexico. And we came here in particular because this is where a lot of the migrants are being brought when they cross over the border, and they're being let out here in downtown McAllen with really no plan once they've been given a court date. That's the frustration we've heard from a lot of people here, is there's no plan for them.
Now, there is even Democrat congressmen that are willing to openly speak here that it is time for the federal government to engage more aggressively about what's happening. Let's have a listen to him, and then I'll get more from you in a sec.
I think that our current administration is doing the best that they can. I do think that they need to spend a little bit more time in this area and to come and visit and try to handle the issues differently.
So that's part of the local perspective. Tell us about, again, what local officials are seeing on that. We're seeing headlines all day. What have you been able to work out about what the reality of the flow of people is?
Well, look, Paul, that was so illustrative because that's the local Hidalgo County chairwoman. This is the area of Texas that's all the Democrat counties. And so that is a bit counterintuitive when you've seen this really strong message about people being upset about illegal immigration. And what we've seen on the ground here is that people really agree on more than they disagree on. So many people here are really horrified by the illegal crossings, and it's gone up exponentially. Now there's been, in the first 3 months of this year, 569,000 people that Customs and Border officials have picked up. That's more than the entire year of 2020, and that's only the first 3 months. And so people here are saying that they're seeing it all the time. They're seeing people running through their backyards. They're scared. And what we are seeing is this concern that they're saying they're not against immigration. Plenty of people we've spoken to came over themselves, are of Mexican heritage, and some of them even illegally. But what they've said is that now it's the cartels that are running this process, that people are spending $1,500 for every attempt to come over. And there's been this bottleneck built up because Donald Trump was hardline. These people have been waiting over the border. We spent some time already in Reynosa, just south of the border in Mexico, speaking to migrants, saying that they weren't going to stop trying because they've been separated from their families and they're really concerned as well. So this is where, as you heard from that woman who's part of the Democratic Party, she's the local campaigner here for the party, she wants the administration down here as well, and they want that intervention because they feel like they're being left in the lurch, that nothing's happening. And until there is a strong program, even Republicans, we spoke to a Donald Trump supporter last night that said he wants to bring more immigrants over, but he wants them taken over in migrant programs because he knows farmers that can't get their fruit picked. And so this is where, like I said before, people agree on more than they disagree on, but the government isn't leading it, and that's what the concern is.
Yeah, and look, you know, Kamala Harris has apparently been meeting with the presidents or the leaders of the relevant countries south of where you are right now. But of course, if the flow is controlled by the cartels, the government's not in control of the cartels. So it's well and good to have a conversation at that top governmental level, but enforcement at the border is the American government's responsibility. And for whatever reason, I would suggest fairly obvious leftist politics, that Harris doesn't want to talk about the enforcement side of it very much, and again, steadfastly refuses to go where you are right now to talk to people like the people on her own side.
And that's where this is going to be the real issue, that it's not going to get resolved anytime soon. And it's only a very slight relaxation of the actual policies. It's those unaccompanied minors that have been the key to so many people saying that now is the time to attempt this, and just the relaxation and rhetoric from Joe Biden saying that they need a more compassionate approach. For plenty of people, they've said that they thought this was their time. So it's not going to be an attractive thing, though, if they have to have more border protection officials taking that enforcement. It's something we've already seen, even just been here a few days, people running up to border protection through fields, going over the water. It's a life and death thing. It's over 30 degrees here each day. They're going through the deserts, often without water, without food. We spoke to a woman who walked all the way from Honduras to Reynosa, and she lost all of her toenails doing that. She was escaping a violent domestic violence situation. So try saying that there's going to be a change in administration there that's going to change her perspective of getting away from a very abusive husband. It's not going to happen. But this is where there could be really ground for a compassionate response from the Biden administration, bringing people over in migration programs where it's controlled, where they're kept track of, and where they can ensure that they are working and contributing to society. So this is what we're hearing on the ground. I'm not editorialising here, but it's remarkable that it's so much a red-blue issue when you're in DC, and then you get here and it's actually much more nuanced.
Of course. In the end, it's always human. That's the thing. All the fighting that happens on telly, in the end, it's a human issue. Now, Annelise, when your reporting is done, if you have 5 minutes, I want you to be able to go to a wonderful boots store. It's called Cavender's. They're all over Texas. It's the one where you are. Is it Expressway 83? Go buy yourself a beautiful pair of cowboy boots, all right, for me.
I'm going to charge it to the company and say that you authorised it.
Please! And if you want to get male size 9 boots, that'd be great. Wilder the better, please. Thank you, mate. Appreciate it. Annelise Nielsen there on the border in Texas. You'll see her reports all week long here at Sky News. Text sent. She now knows exactly where to go. Now, let's continue our phone calls here. Senator Hollie Hughes from the Liberal Party and from Labor and so much more in terms of the local council world is Linda Scott. Who have we got here on the telephone lines? We've got Mary. Hello, Mary.
Hello, Paul.
Hello,
compliments on your show.
Thank you very much. You're kind. What do you want to say?
I actually would love to implore your show and the media in general to stop so much negativity in regards to aged care. Okay. It's frightening the living daylights out of elderly people who should be in aged care. I know there are many places that perhaps are not of the standard that they should be, but there are many, many, many more that are above that standard, and nobody seems to want to represent them. The Nurses Union just put so many negative ads on, and as I said, people are trying to stay at home for much longer than they should because they're frightened to go into aged care, that they're going to be starved to death or beaten alive. And it really worries me.
Yeah, I mean, because Mary, I suppose that perception comes about in part because there was a need for something like a royal commission. So how do we better balance on the telly? I mean, obviously we don't want to ignore what's happening in the aged care thing, but we don't want to scare people either.
Well, I've only ever seen people come on the telly, program who had a very bad experience or their relative had a very bad experience. I can't remember the last time anyone came from the industry or somebody who had a wonderful experience in aged care. Have you?
Well, I have not, Mary. Here is the challenge. 1300 30 34 35. Take up Mary's challenge if you want to tell the positive side of things. Go to Stan, who's in Deniliquin right now in beautiful New South Wales. How are you, Stan?
G'day, Paul. How you going, mate? Love
Good,
the show.
Mate. Rip in. Thank you, mate.
Right, I just want to talk about the cruise industry at the moment. It's worth something like $7+ billion to the Australian economy and sustains thousands of Australian jobs, both directly and indirectly. And there is, in effect, I guess, no COVID in our community. Why can't vaccinated, COVID-free people board a ship crewed and staffed by vaccinated, COVID-free people and cruise to COVID-free Australian domestic ports?
So you're talking about Australians being able to do so, or vaccinated people from overseas?
No, our own. If we're going to have our international borders shut, why can't we have the cruise industry operate domestically? I mean, there's thousands of people at the moment wanting to cruise right now.
Yeah, and there's people in footy stadiums and theatres, and it's not like we're afraid about being around people. Thank you, Stan. Appreciate it. All right, Linda, if it's Australians only, if they're vaccinated, if it's only between Australian ports where nobody's got the Rona, why not?
Look, I think in New South Wales, we're honestly still pretty traumatised from the Ruby Princess. I mean, I hear your argument, Stan. I think there's probably some reason. And as Paul says, the fact that we have people back in stadiums, back in theatres, back in these larger venues, and, you know, people can go out on dock, you make a fair case. It should be perhaps something that's looked at. The one thing I will add, and this was so disappointing to read in Sydney over the weekend, is that we're now seeing people in our hotel quarantine who have been vaccinated, who have again tested positive for COVID and are able to still spread the virus to others who have not been vaccinated. So we've got still a long way to go, I think, before we reach a point where it is safe to head back into a normal world where we forget that COVID even existed. I suspect we're going to be looking at scenarios where we have to balance a lot of these pressures for some time, even when people are still vaccinated. They're not necessarily safe from spreading this terrible disease to others.
Well, interestingly, in the past couple of days, registrations have opened for people over the age of 40 now. You can be able to do so. We'll put up all those websites in the next little while. Hollie, how do you feel about cruise ships of Australian vaccinated people, limited people perhaps? Surely that's an option.
Look, it could be an option going forward. Obviously, all the decisions and discussions are around keeping Australians safe and making sure that we do so effectively. Linda's right. When we talk about vaccination versus transmission, they are two very different things. And cruise ships, if someone, whilst the vaccine is to ensure COVID is more like a cold or a minor flu as opposed to the deadly virus that it can be. If you're out at sea and you still manage to catch it, not quite able to get the medical care you need, I'm not quite sure that's where you'd want to be. But also, cruise ships, I've never been on one, but I understand that once viruses get on board, and I'm talking even things like gastro, they tend to go through the whole ship by the very nature of the exchanges within people that live in close quarters and sharing meals around buffets. So a lot of those things are still not happening. Yes, you might go into a football stadium, but you're still in a lot of parts social distanced. You're not going into a situation with a buffet sort of service of food, not in confined spaces with air conditioning systems, that whether or not they're up to the challenge of maintaining a virus-free environment. Cruise ships were a problem at the beginning of the virus. I'm not sure whether they'll be quick to come back, but if it was something that was Australians that are all vaccinated around Australia, we do need to start to open things back up again. I totally agree with you on getting those jobs happening again, but it might be another year at the Denny Ute Muster rather than on a cruise ship.
Good call out. All right, quick break. Back with more. Your calls, 1300 30 34 35. Anything you want to talk about, we'll get to all of this in a moment, including a bunch of NIMBYs who say no more volleyball on our beaches. Sooks. We'll get to you in a sec.
Imagine a political review of the week.
Yet another shooting.
Big corporations have sold out to China.
It's truly unrepressed.
Every Australian wants justice.
And unafraid to look at all the angles.
Big tech, big media, and the big lies they tell you.
That is how communism and totalitarianism work, not freedom.
Ideas unlimited to the cookie cutter perceptions.
Yes! There you go.
Outsiders, 9 a.m. Sundays.
At Meriton, we've built Australian dreams for generations. That's why, with a 100% completion rate, we are Australia's most trusted developer. Our multi-award-winning designs transform city skylines, offering exquisite quality and luxury living. Meriton, built for a lifetime.
It's time for a new set of celebrities to run wild.
I'm out here with Bear Grylls. Ah!
Setting off on the adventure of a lifetime.
Where do I begin? Let's go! The tough survive. Whoa! I hit a grub. I'm a little emotional.
Running Wild with Bear Grylls, Tuesday at 8:30, new to National Geographic.
Just tell us a little bit about yourself.
I'm Ray. I'm 40, got a kid. Whoa! Hey! Watch where you're going, eh? What was that?
You right, old man?
The Foxtel original series is coming back.
Can you paint my nails, please, Dad?
Before the new season begins, May 26, only on Foxtel. Catch up on every episode.
Do you think that you've got an anger problem?
No.
There's a darkness in you.
Have you ever killed anybody?
Once. I'm just kidding, mate. I'm just kidding.
Mr. In Between. Watch on demand.
Tomorrow, amid Canberra chaos and a rocky vaccine rollout, Budget Night will be live on Sky News. Join Kieran Gilbert, Andrew Clennell and Ross Greenwood for expert analysis, plus interviews with the key players. Who will be the winners and losers in post-pandemic Australia?
Our plan will create jobs.
And is the fiscal fightback the beginning of Scott Morrison's re-election campaign? Budget Night, tomorrow.
All right, a couple of things before we take a couple of last calls here. Apparently there's some people at Bondi Beach who do not like the idea that there is a permanent volleyball net that's there. Oh, you people. So they are, among other things, trying to say that this thing must go on volleyball at Bondi and Taramarama because it's Crown land and it's for everyone. Look, what's wrong with having these sorts of things up, Linda? You get it, you have to balance this stuff with local council. But come on, who has a problem with a volleyball net on that beach? Who is being denied access to the beach?
I'll say this calmly and respectfully. You'd be amazed after my 8 years in local government to see what some people have a problem with. I mean, I won't go through it. As I said before, Paul Murray, I am not going to go into some, 537 councils. It's my job to represent. I'm not going to go into local issues. But the privatisation of beaches, whether it be for a volleyball court or a cafe, we've seen applications on this beach before for people to carve off or rope off bits of the sand and put cafes and other outdoor dining experiences. And we've seen the absolutely bipartisan vitriol, like everybody from Tanya Plibersek and Albo to Dave Sharma, whose electorate this is in,
these people
come
didn't
out
want a
and
train
say,
line because people from the western suburbs would come there.
So I'm just saying people feel strongly about their beaches, and whenever you do anything to a beach, be it small or large, just like many other local government issues, people have strong views. So big love to Paula Malsalos, who's the fantastic mayor there of Waverley, and her team. They're doing community consultation. That's the right thing to do. They're engaging with their community. They're asking their community what they think, and then they will form a view. That's good government. That's good, proper public process.
All right. Mary called us and said challenges for people to call and tell us about positive stories about aged care. Bruce is one of those who's decided to do so. G'day, Bruce.
G'day, Paul. We put Mum into a home 3 or 4 years ago when she was having a lot of falls at home. She's like a lot of people they described earlier that resisted going into a home. 91, got a licence back it up. 91, couldn't believe it, but had too many falls and we finally had to put her in there. She'd ended up having a broken neck. I've got to say, the place we've put her into, it's just absolutely Rolls-Royce. They look after her. They have to do all the bodily functions for her, wash her, feed her, put her in a chair, and she is just in a place that's fantastic. So, look, it's not all bad out there. I think it goes from place to place, but this place that we've got Mum in Chadstone there in Melbourne is just first class.
Bruce, I'm going to put you back on hold. We'll send her some flowers, all right, from all of us here at Sky News. All right, we've got Narelle in Cairns. Narelle, hello, how are you tonight?
I'm very well, how are you?
Good, I love Cairns. Can't wait to come back very soon. Mate of mine's there right now. What do you want to say?
I hope you do. I've just got an issue because I booked a flight to go down to Sydney to watch the Collingwood-Sydney game, and people are going to hate me for that. But I've also got an issue where no one can tell me. I've trying to cancel my flights down there because I'm flying down there with my 75-year-old parents. So I have an issue with the border closures and stuff. So can't the governments work together and just say this is how this is going to work? Just don't change it in 24 hours.
Narelle, I wish it was so. This is what we have been fighting for a year. When is the game, by the way?
Hey, it's not us in New South Wales, Paul.
Yeah, correct, because that's the thing. I mean, look, Hollie, this is what we've been talking about the whole time. Prime Minister's open about things like vaccine passports. We needed to be a whole lot smarter than we have been, but it does feel like things have started to come down, but I know that means I'm tempting fate somewhere.
Shh. You want to go to Cairns? Be quiet. Yeah. Don't give Anastasia any ideas.
Yeah, I'm with you. All right, ladies, thank you very much. We're out of time. We'll see you again tomorrow night, post-budget here on Sky News Live. Stand by. A little further taste of what's coming up in the budget is with Gleeso at the top of the hour. Ta-da.